being chased, thrown on the run, and it is caught. Touchdown, Keenan Allen. What a grab.
That's what I'm talking about. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. That's the warrior spirit right there, boy.
Huge sack by Joey Bosa.
90-yard touchdown. 90-yard touchdown.
That's going to be picked off at the 8-yard line by Derwin James.
Herbert sets his feet, takes a shot downfield, has Knighton. Caught! Touchdown, Chargers!
That's the greatest throw I've ever seen.
And welcome all to the Thunder Down Under Chargers Football Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Prophet, joined by me good mates, Jack Reed and Alistair Lloyd, here to talk some Week 6 football. Boys, thank you for joining me. How are we feeling a couple days removed from the OT win?
Yo! We won a close game. Yes, thank you.
3 on the trot, baby.
Ooh, how good. Well, plenty of great insights to get through from the Broncos game, along with a preview for our Week 7 encounter with the Seattle Seahawks. As always, guys, please take the time to give the video a like and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, or if you're new, welcome. We appreciate you guys tuning into our show, and we'd love to be able to reach more awesome Chargers fans, so thank you in advance. All right, Week 6 is in the books. The Los Angeles Chargers 19, the Denver Broncos 16.
Woo!
Primetime Herbert and the Chargers, under the watchful eyes of Troy Aikman and Joe Buck, much to Jack's dismay, we're always going to be in for a fight against Russell Wilson and a top 5 NFL defense. Some say Corey Linsley copped the wrong end of Herbie's Cleveland victory brisket, so he missed with food poisoning. Keenan still couldn't get up, and Trey Pipkins was playing with a sprained MCL. The story was set. O-line issues. It was hard to know which Herbert we were going to get on the night. After a juicy PI call, the first of many for Damari Mathis, thank you very much, the Chargers were straight into the Broncos' territory. But a few off-time and misdirected throws saw the Chargers punt from Denver's 39-yard line. Not really fair on JP Scott's net yardage, and a few signs of offensive chemistry issues to start the game. While the majority of the defense had come to play, a 20-yard PI call and blown coverage on a 39-yard TD score were worrying signs early for JC Jackson. Broncos went up 10-0, and things weren't looking great. Russell Wilson near perfect. Chargers O-line in struggle town. The second quarter was the start of the fight back, the Bolts answering with an Eckler rush TD from the 6, Zion Johnson driving him over the goal line. Coming out of the halftime break, the Chargers squared the ledger with another field goal. Kicker D-Hop clearly suffering from an apparent hamstring injury, but sending it through from 31. A huge sack by Derwin James forced the second of 3 consecutive punts by the Broncos. Personnel changes helping the Chargers defense quash Russell Wilson, the front 7 particularly great. It was field goal for field goal as neither offense seemed to be able to get a rhythm. Going into the second half, Drew Tranquill was massive with sacks on back-to-back 3rd and 6s. The second of which sent me running around Alistair's living room. I could have blown his roof off. It gave hope for a final 2-minute drill to take the lead. Almost bizarre clock management and short field play calling left things to a Hail Mary attempt. Time expired. Boys were heading to overtime. Defense continued its way, forcing 2 3-and-outs on Denver. What ensued on the Chargers' second possession was nothing short of blissful anarchy. A booming JP Scott punt allowed Jasir Taylor to make an incredible heads-up play on the return blocker, forcing the muff punt recovered by Dean Leonard. The rookies combining for a turnover on special teams. Injured D-Hop, the hero, seals the game from 39 yards. That's right, Chargers win from a special teams turnover in overtime, sealed by a field goal from an injured kicker.
Love it.
Well, the Chargers are tied for the lead in the AFC West, a 3-game win streak. Don't you forget it. Jack, is that the most un-Chargers way to finish a game that you've ever experienced?
Close to, I think. I think what tops that was at KC when Phillip Rivers threw to Mike Williams for the 2-point conversion when we won. And I lost my absolute mind and also my shirt. Funnily enough, if you want to look at that very quickly,
Never
it was
seen
off.
a man remove his shirt as fast.
Actually, we'll post that one in the description for the YouTube listeners. We shake the foundations and we get nude real quick.
We will. That's very funny. That's up on Twitter forever. I'll start with something really important. Andy, you touched on it, but if you were to tell me that this player had 8 tackles, 2 sacks, 3 pressures, a 36.4 pass rush win rate, 3 yards allowed in coverage, and 2 tackles tackles for loss. Drew Tranquil was the linebacker we have been waiting to see. What an absolute game. And hey, Brandon, let's blitz the linebackers because when we do, we look fun. And Drew Tranquil shot out of a cannon, and that, as you mentioned, Andy, that sack that he had on Russell Wilson, I was going, sucked in Russell Wilson, you fraud. That was my interesting part.
I love Drew Tranquil's game. So good. And as powerful as that big 9-yard loss was, it was almost the sack on the drive beforehand where he's watched Wilson scramble to his left, or Tranquil's left, and then chased him around and still managed to get him for that 4-down loss.
100%.
Awesome
100%.
game. So good to see that sort of development continue for him. Al.
Hey, I want to start with something a bit fun. I went on to the Mile High Report, which is the Denver Broncos fan community forum run by SB Nation. Here are just a couple of fun little posts. Michael Jugs of Porter writes, probably no easy fix. It's going to take years to get Wilson's money off and draft a new QB. I'm all for trading most anyone on offense. They suck. And then this is my favorite. This is by Bucko5. I keep seeing Hackett and Wilson, but are you okay with this O-line? Because right behind Hackett, I see that is the biggest problem. Of course, Wilson's contract sucks, but all that aside, I rate the problems in order. Hackett, play calling, game management, discipline, offensive line, injuries, Wilson, field vision and not being able to do what he used to do, but paid for it nonetheless. Running back depth. Gordon is washed up. Boone can't catch or pass block. Wide receiver effort. Lazy routes, drops. Judy and Hamler's raging on the sideline. Get a mirror, guys. Judy, why aren't you getting open? The season is over, so please, NFL, please take us out of prime time viewing.
Wow.
And that, I think we get the flavour, but they've blown up over there. Nothing is better to see. As Chargers fans, they're a long, storied, successful franchise, winning Super Bowls, Elway, Manning, and I think we all thought deep in our hearts, in our Chargers hearts, that we might see another kind of champion team come out with Hackett and Wilson. And it's just great to take the chocolates on the first week. As to the game itself, I thought Brandon Staley's second half adjustments was possibly the best thing we've seen from a Chargers defense since Staley took the reins. And the stats tell the tale. Russell Wilson goes from having 10 out of 10 completions early. In the second half, he is 3 of 11 for 15 yards. Incredible. And Jack, blitzing relentlessly, not just blitzing linebackers, also blitzing safeties. All the stuff we talked about last week, it happened. So we started positive because I know there's been some negative murmurings on Chargers Twitter, but from my perspective... Aren't there always? We've won 3 games in a row and we beat a rival. We're 4-2, feeling good, baby.
Absolutely. So good. I think a big shout out is deserving for Jamari Salyer. He was awesome at left tackle once again. One pressure from his 93 snaps, and look, I'll call it pretty early. For the pressure that Baron Browning was getting around Trey Pipkins, if Herbert was copying that from both sides, it's death.
Game over.
Yep.
And Herbert, for mine, had one of his worst games as a Charger, and that happens. And we're not going to crucify him, although amazing that I guess we've seen super stuff from him. But Staley has a bad game, and it's head on a spike kind of attitude. Probably those Denver posts were almost more eloquent than some of the Chargers tirades I read, which are just mind-blowing. But yeah, look, the rest of the O-line really struggled. We sort of thought that might happen with Lindsley not suiting up. Will Clapp, 2 pressures and a penalty. And one of those pressures he got absolutely smoked. And when he went down injured with an apparent quad, he looked dead. I thought he might have expired rather.
Is that the one where he's face down on the ground and it's just like he's just gone complete dead fish?
Yeah, full, just corpse gear. Jack, what else tickled your fancy?
I on second watch, I thought the first drive, if Bandy gets called if Denver get called for PI against Bandy, I think we probably go down and score a touchdown. We were rolling. I found that really challenging to watch on the second sort of through, because I think the whole game script flips if we score a touchdown on that first drive answering their field goal. So it was a shame that Michael Bandy didn't sort of pop up a bit more. But you said it, Andy, the offensive line really struggled, and they get coverage sacks. Their secondary is very, very good, the Denver Broncos. And you could just see Herbert is just sticking to his first read a lot of the time. He's sort of really, really hones in on it and wants to force it. And that perhaps is to his detriment. On that second watch, Alistair, you were showing some shorts about how in some of those sail concepts that, that crosser, that late crosser's open over the field. He just needed to hold it a little more. What else was interesting? I think to quote Matt Down, who's a Chargers supporter and listens to this, one of my teaching colleagues at school.
Hey, Matty.
I think sometimes you've just got to win ugly, and that's what he sent me. He says, wow, what a game. But you know what? You got to win ugly sometimes, and I think that's what we did, which was pleasing to see. They do. Good teams win ugly.
Top
absolutely.
5 biggest NFL tropes. Good teams.
Yeah.
If you look around the league, it's happening all over the league. It's as even
Exactly.
as it's ever been. This is the time of the year you bank your wins, you withstand injuries, and then you hope you get a bit healthier as the season develops, and you try to round into form around the playoffs. That's what the Bengals did last year.
Well, that's what you have to do. I mean, everyone's still playing for playoffs, right? 6 weeks in, you're 2-3, or 5 weeks in, you're 2-3, you're 4-2, you're 2-4. If you get on a run, you can still perhaps make the playoffs. But in the next couple of weeks, you start to see perhaps endeavour drop a little bit, cohesion drop a little bit in those teams that are only 2 and 3 wins, and you start having fan bases blowing up and all that kind of stuff. Well, I don't know, the Chargers fan base seems to just blow up no matter if we win or lose. Sometimes we do that too. Alistair, I have a question for you. Is Corey Linsley the most important player on the Chargers?
He's at least the second or third. I mean, we're singing from the same hymn book at this stage. You look at how we play when he's out of the lineup, it is chalk and cheese. Neither of our guards play well. Filer was back down to very low grading. Zion Johnson has 3 holding calls, and he does set the protection. And it's got to be it. We've seen it now happen enough times that not only do we not get the protection right, but we cannot run the ball. We can't run it at all. We were back to 73 yards on 24 attempts. So 3 per carry. Eckler going nowhere, just over and again. So, no is my answer, but that's not to discount how incredibly important he is. And hopefully his little bell is feeling a bit better next weekend. We need him because they're dropping like flies around him, which we'll get to in a second. But we need Corey Linsley back ASAP. I'll throw one back to you, mate. And Andy also jump in. It's not just a Jack question. This is a Joe Lombardi question. Because if you look just at a couple of, box stats, Herbert's had really low yards per attempt in this game. I mean, incredibly low. He's at 4.2 yards per attempt. It's so low. And again, the average depth of target was under 6. Lots of people complaining. A lot of this spot concept, which we've discussed a little bit. We run spot a lot on stick routes. Talk to me about Lombardi. Was this 3 good games in a row from him, or was this back to the shit version of him?
What can you expect of a play caller when you've got all-pro left tackle out, you've got an all-pro receiver out, you have a quarterback with broken ribs who is, or broken rib cage, fractured rib cage, so he's going to be jumpy. You've got your all-pro centre out. I don't mind Herbert getting the ball off at 4.2 to 4.5, as long as we're still moving the chains. I don't think there's anything wrong. You can't expect Joe Lombardi to call up this incredible deep shot to who? Who's it going to be? Because Guyton's not there. Who's it going to be? Mike Williams? Jump ball? No, he probably doesn't have the speed to get downfield fast enough. Well. On Satan, but we don't have anyone to get down the field fast enough because the protection around Herbert is closing in. So I don't know what people want. He still moves the ball. Do I want Justin Herbert throwing the ball 57 times, which I think that's what he racked up? Possibly not. But I think Joe is showing that he can adapt given the roster that he has every Sunday. And I think he's doing a good enough job so far. What do you reckon, Andy?
Well, I had almost exactly the same question posed for you, Jack, that Alice has asked. So I think he adjusted to the game script quite well. recognising that Herbert had next to no time to cook up, allow those deep routes to develop, getting no separation for Mike Williams on Pat Surtain. And we don't have the speed. We lack sub 4.4 40 speed. We don't have the twitch in our offense. And then some of our pass catchers just drop the ball and give it straight back to the defense. So I think I don't understand or respect any want to nag on Joe Lombardi for this game.
No, I agree. And another point to add to that is that's what we're doing. Look at what Denver did. A Giro of arrows from the Fangio tree. They played the too high shell all game.
They did.
It's exactly what teams are doing to stop Joe Burrow. So these deep shots aren't really existent. They're asking you to run stick kind of concepts and matriculate the ball, run the ball. Long sustained drives, which is what we did. So would it be nice if we hit the turkey hole in the cover two every now and then in the seams and in between the safety and the corners? Yes. But as Andy just said, we don't necessarily have the speed to get there in time. So the way we approached it, we just put 19 points up against the Broncos, and it was the second most points any team has scored against them so far. So if you're one of the anti-Lombardi types, you're wrong. No, you can think whatever you want, but this was good. It's 3 wins in a row, and the offense is moving in the right direction.
Yeah. What I will say is, though, that some of those spot routes that you mentioned before, it's becoming a little bit predictable. Oh, yeah. And there's a lot of routes that have receivers really close to each other, which makes it far easier to defend with a number advantage. So we'll get into the injuries and stuff going forward for this week, but we're probably not going to see Keenan Allen suit up against the Seahawks. So we've got another week of, and potentially a couple of guys in the concussion protocol. We've got another week of this, if not worse. John Hightower at wide receiver. Beg your pardon. But like, what can you do with that? You can only do your best with the cattle that you have. So
it would be absolutely remiss of Joe Lombardi to draw up these deep long shots and have Herbert getting crunched for 8, 9, 10 times a game. It's just stupid. So I will say, for these people who are looking for these deep shots because they look sexy and they get big out, yeah, but you realise that you're putting your quarterback at risk. So I don't know. You can't have your cake and eat it too. It's 50-50 there. Andy, I had something for you at your mate Horvath. Where's he gone the last couple of weeks? Which is it's a weird one because, we are getting the ball out to Michelle, Kelly when he's on the field, and Eckler, but it seems to be that Horvath completely kind of disappeared. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't really ever think we saw much of him as even a third down back or a short yardage back. We've got
haven't even tried.
We've got Sony Michel for that, and all the other ridiculous things that Sony Michel's used for first downs. And so I don't see him in that. He's been a lead blocker for some of those runs. There was one quite infuriating pass to him that went incomplete, and he was open for the first down, near out of bounds, late in the game, and Herbert kept looking upfield.
Yeah.
Look, I don't think he's a top go-to guy in the passing game, even out in the flat. And I think the later that the game got with how we needed to move the ball downfield, he just doesn't get sort of recognised. So while we're still trying to develop Austin Eckler and Josh Kelly, or for the next month, it's going to be a lot more Sony Michel, and hopefully another guy, which we'll get to in a little bit. Look, maybe with Kelly out, we might see a little bit more Horvath, but I don't
Let's see more Xander. Come on, Brandon. Let's see some more. Let's see more Xander.
Yeah, he was standing there with his rig out. And
all the time he's got his shirt off. Yeah. It's a big boy.
Fuck, I would if I was that rig. All right, well let's move on to the defense. I'm going to start with a question to you, Alistair. Even though it has been announced that he will start, if you had the call, would you sit Jackson this week and let him chill out until the Falcons after the bye?
Here we
Get
go.
his head right. just have a good couple of weeks. Make sure that ankle's 100% over the next fortnight with the week off, and let him hit the ground running, hopefully, against the Falcons.
I'd cut him. No, honest answer.
That's naughty.
I would sit JC Jackson for the time being, and I know I've been the big champion for the signing. He was actually a favourite of mine before we signed him. I was always talking about this guy in New England who keeps picking the ball off. The facts are he's playing really poorly at the moment, in man and in zone. He looks lost. He's low on confidence. I can't help but think there's an element of not knowing the scheme, residual soreness, even if he's not going to use it as an excuse. The bit I cannot really accept, though, is you've dropped a player for performance mid-game. The player who replaced him excelled. The defense looked significantly better in the second half. I think that sets a bad standard to now give Jackson back his spot. I think he needs to earn it through practicing really well and being really good in practice. And you might think, listeners, that I'm being inconsistent because I was saying I want Adderley to come back straight away for Gilman this week. But there is a difference there because Michael Davis has showed he can play at a high level in the NFL. He's shown that from time to time. And when he came in against the Broncos, he played really well. Whereas I thought when Adderley went out of the lineup against the Browns, Gilman's never really shown he can play at the NFL level consistently as a starter. And I thought even though he had that pick, he didn't really have a good game. So I was glad they went back to Adderley. Whereas Jackson, you know what? The coach has just given you a chance. Everyone's given you a lifeline. Show us. You've got a chance to man up on DK Metcalf this week. He should suit your strengths in man coverage. He's a bigger guy, but we're seeing some deeply concerning stuff on the field, and it's attitude related too. Like his body language post completion is not what you expect of a top flight corner. Anything I've said that you disagree with, Jack?
I do. Yeah, I disagree. I disagree with the idea that you should sit him and wait after the bye. If he's going to come out publicly and say that it's not my body, it's not my heel, it's actually just purely mental. We don't know the discussions that they've had behind the scenes. Maybe it's been the fact that, okay, JC, can you try and fit in? Can you try and play in this scheme? Can you play a little bit of zone with a little bit of man? Clearly not happening. If he's gone away, he's been benched. That's a pretty big, strong sign. In the middle of a game, you've benched a top five, arguably top five corner on Monday Night Football, not on Sunday afternoon football. Everyone's seen that. You've got to give a guy a chance to bounce back straight away. Yeah. 2 weeks is a long time in the NFL. And that's a long time for a person who perhaps is struggling with sort of the mental aspect of the game to sit and twiddle your thumbs and go, well, don't I feel a bit down and out for myself? So I think it's the right decision to get him back out in the field, but I think the leash will be shorter. If there's those blown coverages once or twice, I think it's, mate, you got to come off, and Davis, you're on. Then you're getting into a fairly dangerous kind of region with not only you're like, okay, can this guy actually play at the LA Chargers? Now, we're not there yet, but so I think starting him this week, go out, be a dog on Metcalf.
Isn't it great? Because it's a good conversation. You've got integrity in front of the locker room that we reward performance on the one hand. And then, Jack, I know you're coming from this as a teacher, you've got the confidence of the individual. And what will it mean to this fantastic player if when he's already feeling shit, we actually keep him off for an additional week? And maybe you know that that's going to be bad in the long term. Do you sit on either side, Andy? We've both given it a crack.
Well,
you can decide.
I wouldn't... Yeah, I'll just weigh up the pros and cons of both of your points. No, I wouldn't sit him. I think he's the star free agent, $20 million cornerback. Start him.
Okay.
And let him get back there. You know, he's not going to improve sitting on the bench. He doesn't have the opportunity to show it, and he's only going to get better by, if it's mental, which is what he's saying it is. He came out with all those tweets and those messages about what he's capable of. It's all in his head apparently at the moment. He's not quite there. Keyed in with the defense. That man zone, he didn't even know what kind of role he was playing on that Dolcic touchdown. Look, I'd play him, and I think that's the only way that you're going to sort of see him improve. But look, other than JC Jackson having a rough one, big special mention for Michael Davis. He played 55% of the defensive snaps once after halftime, so that obviously includes overtime, and also 73% of the special team snaps. That's a heck of a workload. One pass breakup, one reception for 5 yards, and I think that was a tackle as soon as, it's just a quick release. So, but you're right, it really changed the dynamic of the Broncos' offense in the second half and in overtime. So that was awesome to see, and a really good coaching adjustment from Brandon Staley, and then how well he acknowledged it in the presses afterwards.
I was going to say, Andy, I'll because you've just mentioned kind of a question that I was going to ask. I'll open it up to both of you, Andy or Alistair, or maybe Alistair. You can go first. Do you think coaching ultimately won this game?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, great.
I do, because I kind of feel like the sport in general is about who can view what's happening in real time and make the necessary changes. They've all got the software and equipment now that they can replay each play as you go and actually coach with live film, which is incredible. So when you get that chance to go off on halftime and then come out and make what we did, which was some wholesale changes, we blitzed way more frequently in the second half. We identified something and they died. The offense completely died. Now, our offense, it's not like we took off in the second half, but that was never going to happen with all the people we had out and how good that defense is. We at least maintained what we did in the first half on offense, and then coaching brought us back on defense. So yes, I think it was critical in this game.
I think for the amount of negativity that Brandon Staley got last week, and we played a bit of a game, and do you go for it, do you not? I think this is where the whole coaching of the defense will just slip off quietly under the rug or off into the sunset. No one's really mentioned it too much, but I think the great thing about this podcast is that we go, no, we need to realise that the adjustments that Brandon Staley, the coach Staley, made won us the game. Those were the steps, and it might not be the critical fourth down that gets it to cap it off or to whatever it is. It's the big, the glory call. It's just the small adjustments, and we've got to really appreciate that, because we've got to take the good with the bad, and we've got to celebrate this. We have to celebrate it because, as you said, Alistair, it's one of the best coaching performances perhaps from him so far.
Now, whenever you lavish you go, Andy. We've been Tom.
Well, I'm going to jump right in and say I completely agree with what you said. What I think you're missing is the last 2.5 minutes of regulation time.
You took it out of my mouth. Go on.
Well, Tranquil gets the sack, 9-yard loss, or it goes to from 3rd and 9, whatever it was. 2:39 on the clock. We've got 3 timeouts. Now, rather than calling a timeout and forcing the clock to stop and Denver to then punt, giving us a play before the 2-minute warning, we let it bleed down. Then in the final minute and a half, the clock management, fucked. Al and I were sitting next to each other on the couch, literally doing this. Time out! Call time out, Brandon, if you can hear us. 5 hours later, call a time out. Unbelievable. Like I said, the completion to Horvath for no gain. We then called the timeout with 1 second remaining, and I'm guessing that was just so we didn't lose from a mishap on the eventual Hail Mary. So
I'll tell you the bad one you're talking about, Andy. It's a 3rd and 5. There's 1 minute and 3 seconds left in the game.
That was a bad
we
one.
We completed to Eckler for a first down. We have 3 timeouts, and we should have used one there at 58 seconds left. Yep. Instead, we let the clock roll down to 43 seconds, snap at 1st and 10. We still have 3 timeouts. We've just burnt 15 seconds. We're still 70 yards away from the end zone. So that's one of those ones where could have won the game in regulation.
Well, there was so much value in having the clock stopped when you run a play, considering we could not stretch the field. We were not looking remotely like we were going to execute a Hail Mary, but even like a 20-yard, like a big-time throw, it just didn't look as we were just checking down. The offensive line were just crumbling. So on defense and special teams. Back to the coaching, the win on coaching, whilst I think that we sort of almost lost it on coaching to a degree there, or maybe we could have just won it earlier. Big praise has to go to special teams coordinator Ryan Ficken. He trained our gunners to be heads up for the secondary blocker or the return blocker. Josiah Taylor saw that, was it Polk, the safety, standing right in front of Washington, and there was also some real nasty chat on the play before. He goes, "Man, I'm coming. I'm gonna get you," and he got him. Perfectly legal. Pushed the return blocker into the returner, muffed the punt, and then Dean Leonard, the two boys, the back end boys from the draft last year, jumped on that. And look, the rest is history. But what a heck of a story! Ryan Ficken, Josiah Taylor, and Dean Leonard. Really righting all those wrongs that we saw, especially from Dean Leonard, in the preseason and all the concern. Why we concerned over a 6th round cornerback, I don't know. JP Scott, praise to him as well, doing the job on the kickoffs. And Hopkins, the king. 4 from 4 on the field goals, 1 from 1 PATs, 13 points, strained hammy.
I have to apologise. I owe him an apology. I promised the listeners that he would cost us a game, is what I said. Trust me, keeping this guy's going to cost us a game. He's just won us a game, completely won us the game. So I will eat my hat and humble pie and anything else you want to send me in the mail, listeners. Just reach out. I can send you my address. I'll eat it because I deserve it. And Justin Hopkins...
Here's a nice piece of shit.
He won us the game, and it was just fantastic to see. Just with all of the trauma associated with Chargers kickers over the years, to see a kicker with a torn hamstring take us to victory was so good, Andy. We hugged for about 8 seconds, dicks touching.
Don't underestimate the power. Don't underestimate the power of 2 rookies, special teams winning the game, and how much confidence that builds. Not only in your Josiah Taylor and your Dean Leonard, but also Hopkins, but also all of special teams. That just binds. You saw Derwin James after the game. Who's going nuts? Derwin James was hot. Derwin James was really fired up. So I think, all around, could it have been a better game script? Yes. Could we have won it earlier? Yes. Is this going to be sort of the game on America's game when they play and they go, this is when the Chargers really came together and in the Super Bowl winning run? Who knows? It has shades of that. Listen, I don't want to put the mockers on us, but
you just did on air. So
I just did on air. So there we go. We're winning the Super Bowl, folks.
And your record prediction's still alive, mate. 15-2 still on the way.
I'm still alive, baby. I'm still alive. Yeah. Living dangerously.
Golly, how much better is 4-2 than 3-3? Oh,
God,
Jesus.
100%.
And after the Chiefs lost to the Bills, just so good. A crazy whack weekend of football, but really good. Really good. I just got to say, for Staley, the way that he has been going for it on 4th downs, we had a turnover on downs at the Denver 39, something like that as well, or thereabouts. We don't want to rely on our kicker making having big field goal attempts. To force it into overtime and then rely on your injured kicker. The ball sack on Brandon Staley. Just smugly walking out of there going, I trust my men. Okay. All right, mate. Because if Chargers lose that one 19-16, I'm not going to say any... No. I'm not going to say it would happen because that's not how
Sean Payton was in the stands, mate.
Yes.
Sean Payton was watching. Shawnee.
That's not how the Chargers do business. They're not going to fire a coach before his contract ends and pay 2 coaches for one guy to do the job while the other guy sits on his ass or goes and gets employed elsewhere, which he would. So I just don't think any of that's going to happen. All right, Jack, mate, let's play a game of snakes and ladders. You go up the snake, you go up the ladder, you come down the snake. Apologies.
You can go up the snake, mate. Hey, we're an open podcast. If you want to go up a snake, that's fine.
It might be better than going down the snake. It might be the last thing you do. Give us a ladder and a snake, Jack.
Yeah.
This week.
I will go to Zion Johnson, and I'm going to go roll again. You're not going to go up. You're not going to go down. It's just roll again. He had
Changed
probably
the rules in these games.
That's what I do. He didn't have didn't have an amazing game, but I still,
This is worse than the spork.
What is he? 6 games in, or 5 games in, whatever he is. 6 games in. Roll again. I mean, a lot of people would put him as a snake and go, he's dropped, but he's a rookie. I still thought he held up okay. And I'm doing a future ladder with Kelly's injury. I'm putting Isaiah Spiller shooting up a ladder, and I hope we see him on the field in the next couple of weeks just to see what we've got. So there we go. I've thought I'd make it a little more creative than just simple. So there we go.
No, some synergy with us, because my snake is Josh Kelly. And he's played so well, but our memories are short in the 21st century. We look at too many screens. He hurts himself. He comes out of the game. We will forget quick smart if Isaiah Spiller comes in and plays really well. And it's a 2 to 4 week injury. So it's very sad for Josh Kelly. He's my snake, but not through bad performance. The ladder.
Misfortune.
I actually like a few ladders, but I'm going to just go with one because he's fast becoming my favourite Charger, and his name's Bryce Callahan.
Oh, yes.
To watch how quickly he diagnoses screens and comes flying in tackling is just
amazing.
Beautiful. And you're not seeing so many pass breakups, but he has already had 2 interceptions. And do you know why? Because he's got his man covered. You're not throwing to a man who's covered. He has been so much better than Chris Harris Jr. was, who was the bigger, brighter name. PFF and others were down on this signing. They said Callahan wasn't too good in Denver last year. He's never played more than 13 games in a season. We'll still find out about that. Yeah. But since he's come in, he has been beautiful in the slot. He does it all. He blitzes, he defends against the run, he bats down passes, he picks it off. Well done. Right up the ladder. 10-metre ladder for you, Bryce. Do they exist?
If you're a fireman, maybe. Yeah.
You climb a few roofs at work, Andy? 10-metre?
No, I usually use a scissor lift or a boom for 10 metres. It's just a little bit more safer.
You want to give us a scissor lift then?
Give you a scissor snake, and it's on the down function, and it's a bit of a cheap shot, but it's JC Jackson. That first half was on the watch. Look, excluding everything that's going on off field, he's a pro, and if his foot's good, his play sucked, and it was. I'm sure he was far more frustrated than myself, the two of you, and every other Chargers fan combined with his own performance. But you're getting paid to do a job, and we need you. This show needs you to be JC Jackson.
I need you.
Come on, JC.
As for a ladder, I'm going to give my ladder, because I've mentioned most of my other ones already, just in general chat. Nasir Adderley, benched last week for Alohi Gilman. I thought he did a pretty good job. I felt
Agreed.
a lot safer with Nas in the backfield while we roamed Derwin, spying him through the middle of the field and allowing him to get a really good sack. So welcome back, Nas. Played all the snaps. Staley's really happy with him, so it's not going to be, at least next week, another Alohi Gilman start.
I've got another unfortunate snake, and it's due to injury. It's Donald Parham. He comes back and makes some really nice catches, and he kind of changes the offense a little bit.
Yep.
But if he's going to be in concussion protocol, and I didn't see the injury, I couldn't see it. I was looking for it, and I couldn't find it.
Do you know, Jack, it was on his second catch in the middle of the field. He catches it and goes down. And Andy and I said, he just did this weird thing after. And he got up and played on. But
Okay.
I suspect
Not like a
that was the
spasm.
incident.
It looked like from the camera angle that we saw, it looked like he landed on his shoulder. It might have been residual head impact, but he grabbed at his helmet like
Yeah, God, I just hope he's okay, because he is a guy that sneaky changes the offense a little bit in the way that he can run.
He was great.
And he's got that. He just finds wrinkles. He's sort of a roaming, that tight end. He roams and finds me. He sort of pops up, and he's got some speed too. So unfortunately, yeah, I'm going to give Parham a snake, and hopefully he can get back out in the field. That's not for performance. Maybe that's a bit of a cheap shot, but yeah, it was just. I guess I took that as it's really sad to see. I'm going to say Jamari. No, I'll say Ja'Sir Taylor, ladder. Ja'Sir Taylor, ladder. Ja'Sir Taylor, ladder. Let's hopefully he gets out in the field and he just keeps building confidence. Good on you, mate. You won us the game.
Nice.
I'm going to go one and more of each. My ladder is going to be, this is tough. You both deserve it. It's Sony Michel. Sony Michel for 2 or 3 third and short carries where he braced past initial contact and stumbled and bumbled for the first down. He actually had 30 yards after contact on the day. So
And 28 total yards. So
right.
Crazy stat.
Work that one out. So he did his role. When Kelly came out of the game, he wasn't the reason why things stopped working. He actually got some important first downs. My snake, he actually wears a different uniform, and his name's Melvin Gordon. And he was visibly unimpressed with his coaching staff on the sidelines. And the cameras, boy, they know when they've got some popcorn grade television sitting right there on the sidelines. They panned to him and they did not move. And he was just relentlessly shaking his head. He looked like he had some sort of condition. He was that upset.
His presser after the game in the locker room was really fun to watch as well.
Him and Judy were going at each other too. I saw that.
So here's my snake, Melvin. Have another fumble, brother.
Jack, have you got any more fun ones before we shoot over to the Seahawks preview?
Nah, I'm pretty much good to go. Nah, all good. Let's go Seahawks.
All right, well, just some Chargers news from the week. Palmer and Parham both in concussion protocol, which, as Jack mentioned, is a little bit worrying. Joshua Kelly innocuously sprained his MCL, which is the same injury as Trey Pipkins, so he'll miss 2 to 4. Dustin Hopkins strained hammy on his kicking leg, also expected to miss near a month. Keenan trending positive, but according to Daniel Popper on Twitter, I think Keenan himself would like to take this week, extra week, heading into the bye, just to continue resting and being 100% right. We'd hate to see him come back and then miss more time because he's not ready. Yeah, look, as I said, J.C. Jackson apologising to all the fans, the Charger world. He knows he's better. The coaches know he's better. So he's just got to get his head right and do all that stuff. I thought that was worth a mention, just his sort of presence, knowing that, it's not him. So that's good to hear.
I agree.
And look, in the press conference, Staley sort of rightfully made JC accountable. We've seen it go the other way and Nas be the scapegoat, be it right or not. The blow-up TD and the big completion to Hamler where JC just locked onto the QB for far too long and got blown out by a fast guy. He's not going to run a deep dig. It's KJ Hamler. Praise for Nas, as I mentioned before. And Gerald Everett's battling with a bit of illness. He didn't practice today, so maybe he's been bumping uglies with Corey Lindsley and got a bit of mono. All right. All right.
Okay. All right. Interesting.
Seahawks have just knocked off the Arizona Cardinals in a divisional battle, 19-9. Geno Smith a bit subpar on his season standards. 3 for 197, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 65% completion. Sacked 5 times for 37 yards. Kenneth Walker, another rookie running back that has embraced this league and has us as Chargers fans, with one of ours in the waiting, pretty hopeful that he follows suit. Backed up his big week 5 against the Saints this week, tallying 97 yards and a touchdown from 21 attempts. So it's not necessarily his yards per attempt output. He had a few great running plays, but it's his moves. He's like a joystick. His side-to-side stuff is crazy. When you consider what he's got blocking him from the Seahawks offensive line, oh man, he's fun to watch and something to be concerned about. The defense pressured Kyler all day. He looked rubbish unless he was running with the ball himself.
Didn't do his homework.
No. 6 sacks by the Seahawks defense, 10 tackles for loss, 7 QB hits. Linebackers Jordan Brooks and the 4th-round rookie Kobe Bryant notching near 20 tackles between them. Tariq Woolen, really fun kind of story, adding to his interception tally on the year, making it 4.
Did you hear about what he said after the game?
No, I didn't.
He goes, "Why would you throw to a 6'4" corner who runs 4.26?"
No, he's back. He's walking the walk. Well, I don't mind that. I don't mind talking the talk once you've done it. Just going, well...
It might have been his 4th pick on the year or something.
Yeah, 4th interception for the year.
This is new Richard Sherman, it sounds like. Go.
And yeah, the Seahawks just did enough when it mattered to get into field goal range on the day. And that was the winner, 4 field goals to 1. As I said, 19-9, 3-3 Seahawks. Jack, what do you see as the most concerning aspects of this Seattle team for the Chargers heading into this game?
Yeah, well, you mentioned Geno had a bit of a down game, but if you told me that Geno Smith was 138 for 188 at 73.4%, over 1,500 yards at 8 yards per attempt and 9 touchdowns and 2 INTs, I'd be going, huh? Who? Doing the Tim Toolman Taylor. So he's playing at an elite level. I mean, he was in PFF's top 3 quarterbacks. I think he might have dropped out after last week, but he's playing really well. So you got Kenneth Walker running the ball, and the Seattle system has a strong running game. You've got a quarterback who's playing well, and I think they also have one of the sneaky best receiving tight end cores in the league with Will Disley, and I thought Noah Fant's actually a really good tight end, and they got that in the trade with Denver. And then you've got Lockett and Metcalf, and they're 4 really good, quite versatile weapons as well. This is going to be a tough game. This is not going to be easy. Yeah. So, Al, did you have any more strengths from the Seahawks?
Well, let's look at this trade for Russell Wilson quickly. Do you know what they received for Russell Wilson? Drew Lock, Shelby Harris, Noah Fant, Charles Cross, Boye Mafe, and a 1st and a 2nd next year.
Ludicrous.
Do you reckon they're winning that trade so far? My God.
They are and where the Broncos are this year, yeah.
I mean, we barely mentioned that they've got Metcalf and Lockett, 2 of the best wide receivers in the league, arguably the best duo in the league. And I'm not going to expect Geno's suddenly going to have a bad game. That's not what he looks like. If he gets the ball out quickly, he's accurate, he's got a big arm, he's made incredible plays with his legs. I didn't even realize, who was the guy who was back up to Phillip Rivers back in the day with us? He looked like he didn't know which end of the football to hold when he threw it.
Are you talking about Cardale Jones?
He was with us, Geno Smith.
Yeah, I know that. Thanks.
Seriously, he looked as bad as Cardale.
Yeah.
And now, he's the 2nd ranked quarterback in the entire NFL. It's crazy. I guess the sneaky strength, their young offensive line is better than I probably thought they would have been at this stage.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's the strength of the team, but it looks like Cross and Lucas as rookies bookends. They're holding their own, and even the interior has been okay. Only 10 pressures from the Cardinals last week. So, yeah, they've got lots and lots of strengths. We've just listed them all and left you with none, Andy, unless you can pull one out your way.
I think I do think that Geno turned about 45% of pressures into sacks. So, but some news I've seen, neither Penny Hurt nor Tyler Lockett practiced today, both with hamstring injuries. You know how that goes, but that could be interesting. Not too many more strengths. I feel like I am lining myself up to eat my words after the scathing review I gave for the Seahawks in our opponents series earlier in the year. But I will be just like you guys and absolutely own. I did not expect this out of Geno Smith. His 2nd year in Shane Waldron's system, and he looks like he has complete control of it. When he gets a little bit of time with the separation that those receivers can generate, it's been shocking because I'm not actively thinking of watching Seahawks games, but I'm seeing this huge scoring spree against Detroit, and Detroit went toe to toe, but they're clearly something's working. So Who knows? What about their weaknesses, Al? Where do you think the Chargers can win this game?
Being a bit of a numbers guy, I'll start with just a couple numbers and then throw to Jack for what he sees as weaknesses. A good one is, even though their offensive line is improved, their numbers are really weird. So
Yeah, I agree.
The sacks that they've given up, their sack rate through their first 6 games, 2.2% of the sacks are coming on first down, 1.4% of downs they're getting sacked on second down. On third down, they're getting sacked on 20.7% of downs. Those stats mean nothing if you don't compare them to others. Across the rest of the league, third down sack percentage is usually 9.8%, and they're sitting at 20.7%. So something weird is happening on third down. They're the worst in the league. So that's one weakness potentially to exploit. The other weird one is, even though the offense is humming, they're 31st in the league in red zone offense. They're 6 of 18. So they've only converted touchdowns 1/3 of the time. So there are a couple of things where you look at that and you wonder, well, you've got Lockett, you've got Metcalf, you've got a running back, tight ends. Why can't you get it right in the red zone? Is it something about Geno? Look, there are a couple of weaknesses. What say you, Jack?
Yeah, also, even though Tariq Woolen is intercepting and looking okay, I mean, he's still a rookie. And below that, Artie Burns and Quandre Diggs are playing okay. And then you've got Isaiah Dunn in the secondary at cornerback, and then it goes all the way down to like Kobe Bryant. I'm just having a quick look at PFF grades here, and they're just above 50. So I think their secondary will be something to attack. Their pass rush, Alistair, do you have any numbers on their pass rush?
About how leading the team in sacks with 4. They're getting really good production out of the guys that they've brought in. Quinton Jefferson, Shelby Harris. That's pretty much what's keeping that defensive line together, is the new faces. And it's just molded well together. Poona Ford's still a bit of a liability in run defense. He's a big
I'm looking at their. I'm just looking at their pass rush, and their pass rush is probably one of their more weaker units. So if we can attack their cornerbacks, and hold up on the offensive line, our offensive line, hopefully we could, get some production through the air.
Yeah. They just had a good game against the Cardinals, right? They played really well in that game we just watched. But across the season, they're 30th in yardage, 31st against the run, 31st in points allowed. Like, they're the worst defense in the league across basically every main metric, but have these little bits and pieces. So our offense has a chance to feast in this one if some of our receivers play.
Yeah, and if we don't just drop the ball all the time. I really like the way that our front seven played against the Broncos, and I think this is a really good opportunity for them to double down, bring that pressure, maintain that blitz package rate, and just unnerve Geno Smith, especially if they're missing receivers like Tyler Lockett. He's been their go-to guy. Obviously, Metcalf's kind of more explosive, but Tyler Lockett's really moving the chains for them.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with their injuries. Artie Burns and I think Isaiah Dunn both sat out practice as well with soft tissues today. So who knows what we'll end up against. Jack, what do you think Staley's likely game plan is? What are the keys to victory?
Establish the run.
Yep.
Let's get that. Let's establish the run for the pass. Last week we substituted the pass for the run. I'd like to see Justin Herbert throw the ball less. I would like to see our defense contain Geno Smith and make him a pocket passer. I'd like to see...
He's pretty dangerous with his legs.
Yeah, he is.
He's not incapable.
And Seattle offense have been used to someone back there ad-libbing. So keep him in the pocket. And I think we see a big game from Justin Herbert. I have a feeling, because we're not going to be kicking much, because we're going to have Bertolet in. So I think this is going to be Bertolet, sorry. This is going to be a Staley fourth down game. I can just feel it. This is going to be a Staley fourth down game. I just feel like he's got his big bows. He's gonna bring him to the field and put him out there.
Well, he didn't seem like the gambling man. I mean, he didn't have too many opportunities last week, but he hasn't really seemed like the gambling man. Like someone's cancelled his FanDuel account. He's just going a little bit more conservative compared to what he did last year. What's the identity? What's the identity of Coach Staley and these Chargers? 23 games in, and we're still sort of identifying. We don't know what we're going to get. We don't know what the philosophy is. We know that there's hodges and podges of it, but can we see...
Hey, Bill Belichick made his name off that, right? Different game plan each week against your opponent. Do what you got to do.
Yeah. Like I said, good teams win ugly, and it's any given Sunday. You
Especially
can only
this
be
year.
compared to the team that you're playing on the day. It's really easy to get sucked into, oh, yeah, but he's giving up this many yards or this many... We're failing on this many fourth downs. Yeah, there's a reason why he's doing it. Stick to your guns, Brandon Staley. Don't get sucked in by any of the bullshit media. We believe in you. I think containing Kenneth Walker is going to be a big task. But like I said, I'm going to back our run defense in, as we did last week. Did a really good job to boot Donkey Gordon out of the game and then contain Latavius Murray. He's typically a runner that we struggle against, big guy who can break tackles, take good angles, and we did a pretty good job on him. So, Jack, what's your prediction? What's going on? Are we winning this one?
I just ran through it in my very basic Year 5 maths. I'm going 35-27, and I'm saying we don't kick a field goal. I'm saying we go 5 touchdowns straight.
And they're scoring
3 tutties, 2 field goals.
3 tutties, 2 field goals.
Nice.
All right.
I'll jump in. Chargers 24, Seahawks 17. And if we can limit explosive plays, which has just been a consistent theme all year, that's how we lose this game if we see the explosive plays, right? If you've got this Lockett, Metcalf stuff, we're in trouble. They only scored 19 points last week, so we've got a chance to limit the explosive
against
plays.
the Cards as well.
Yeah, get real exotic on third down. I'm still not sold on Geno, right? He's playing well, but he's Geno Smith. Let's cook him up. Let's blitz him. Let's make him show his wares, win the game by a touchdown, go into the bye 5-2.
Yep, I like it. Chargers win at home for me for 4 on the trot. I'm going 24-20, a little bit more of a closer encounter because we can't have fun watching the Chargers football, really, until the final whistle blows. It is always stressful as shit, but we love our powder blues, and we love you guys for listening. So we look forward to catching up with you all next week and breaking down this hopeful win against the Seahawks. And thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you next time on the Thunder Down Under.
See you all. Thanks for listening.
Chargers podcast.
Backpedals looking, firing, he's got Floyd turning, got it, zigzag, 10, 5, high step, touchdown, San Diego!
Woo! Good night! Good night to all!